Clare FM's Beyond Belief with Stephen Fletcher.
Well, you're tuned to Beyond Belief on this Sunday evening, and I'm very pleased to have been joined by Gillian Barnett from World Vision Ireland. And Gillian, welcome and good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen.
And we met back in April, I think, and you were telling us about the projects that you're doing there. Perhaps just tell us a little bit about World Vision, because it is worldwide, isn't it? It's not just in Ireland, it's a big organisation. Perhaps just tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, certainly. So World Vision Ireland is part of World Vision, which is the world's largest child-focused non-governmental agency, and we spend a lot of our time working with the most vulnerable children in the world's hardest places to ensure that they live life in all its fullness.
And so you do this, you obviously require sponsorship. I remember from our conversation previously that people can sponsor a particular child, but also you're doing some other projects as well.
Yes, that's right. So a lot of our funding does indeed come from sponsors all around the world who sponsor one or more children, but the unique thing about World Vision sponsorship is that each child only has one sponsor, and we really encourage those sponsors to build a relationship with that child, for example by sending birthday cards or Christmas cards to the children, or just writing to the children, and in return they get responses from the children, they get annual updates, they get education updates from that child in their community. So sponsorship is a very important way that we fund. We also do get some support from governments around the world. So the Irish government in particular is a generous supporter and a really valued supporter for World Vision Ireland. And we've also really begun to go out and ask some companies to help work with us. We apply to some trusts as well for some funding, and we're also increasingly wanting to work with churches.
Right. And what countries are you working in at the moment? World Vision Ireland, I mean.
Yes, so World Vision Ireland are currently in 17 countries around the world. Yes, and we have sponsorship programmes in 3 of those, so in Nepal, in Uganda and in Tanzania. And then those countries are stable enough, they're very low developing countries, but they're stable enough in order for World Vision Ireland to go in for at least 10 years and really build up those communities, working with the community elders at the beginning to find out what is needed in those communities, and then working with the leaders in those communities to establish the plans. And then some other countries that we're working in for more shorter term projects are, for example, the DRC. We're working there to make sure to really look at education, particularly women's education. And we're working in many different countries as well, looking at how we can supply food, because food is such a basic and much needed area that we can all support with. We know that we are on the brink of famine in many of these countries, and we are really working with lots of different agencies, lots of different partners to ensure that the food that we have in this world is actually adequately distributed. We produce over 8 billion tonnes of food every year, which is more than enough to feed every woman, man and child in the planet. But unfortunately, it's how the food is distributed within these systems that is just so blatantly unfair. And so we're working to ensure that there is enough food for everybody to have.
And that's this campaign Enough,
yes,
which I've read about.
Yes, that's right. So our Enough campaign is just, we want to stand with the world's children in particular to say enough is enough. There is enough food for every child in this planet, and we've had enough of the fact that nobody is getting it. How
will you convert that into action? You're raising awareness, but have you got plans as to how you might improve the distribution and things like that?
Yes, so first of all, money talks, so we are looking to see how many organisations we can partner with to raise funds. We're looking to see from individuals as well to give what they can afford. But ultimately, we do need to really build those partnerships and build it into policy for local governments to ensure that food is more fairly distributed around the world. We also, World Vision are the world's largest partner of the World Food Programme, and the World Food Programme is an organisation which ensures that food is sent to where it's most needed, so for example to refugee camps around the world and to places where we know that climate change has really devastated the local food production. So we work very closely with the World Food Programme, and we're actually hoping to ramp up that support to work alongside them.
But I suppose you also need to work in the rich nations to ensure that they divert some of the excesses that we have to these places that need it so desperately.
Yes, absolutely. And it can even be a case, it's not even so much of sending the food produce from the richer countries to the less rich countries, it's actually just ensuring that the food that's produced in those less rich countries stays there.
Yes, of course, and not exported.
Yes.
Adding air miles and all the rest of it.
Yes, all of that, yes.
Yeah. No, good. And you have other projects as well.
Yes, so the campaign that we're really focusing on just now is our 100 Girls campaign. And what that is that we have got 100 girls who are urgently waiting now for a sponsor. And we would really like these girls to be sponsored before the 8th of March, which is the International Women's Day. And you can sponsor boys and girls, obviously, but the reason that we're focusing on girls just at this time is because we know that girls are the most likely to suffer when there's any catastrophe. They'll suffer first. They're often the first to be sold if a family needs to have food for the rest of the family, or from early child marriage. They are trafficked. They can often be the last ones to receive, even just in their family, they can always often be the last ones to receive food. And so we're really urgently asking for 100 people to stand with us to sponsor these girls who are waiting.
And how would people get in touch? What's the process? What do you have to do to sign up? You know, how can people get in touch with you?
So people can call in to the office, or they can visit our website at worldvision.ie, and there they can go on and they can see the girls that we have who are waiting to be sponsored, and they can select one of those girls. So for example, for myself, when I became a child sponsor, it was very important to me that I sponsored a girl who had the same birthday as my daughters, because what I really wanted to do with that was just, my children have a lot, they're privileged children, and so I wanted them to understand that the world isn't quite like that for everyone. So when it's our sponsored children's birthdays, we get together, we write a card, we send a small gift, a little bracelet or something like that, over to the children, and then those children reply back to us with thanks, and also to say, you know, how their birthday went. And that's been a really important, it's now a part of our family time, and we do the same again at Christmas. But it's really interesting for the girls. They can go into school and they can say that their sponsored child who's the same age as them is doing this at this moment in time, and they've begun to share that with their class, and really had really quite interesting feedback from other children in their classes. Just recently we held a sponsorship event in a local church to our offices in Dublin, where we went along and we were invited to speak to the congregation there, and we were able to say that we were wanting to have some child sponsors, and we talked a little bit about some of the sponsorship aspects of what's expected from the sponsor and what kind of things they'll get in return. And we had a really lovely meeting with those people. We selected one community that those children would be from, so that there can be some sort of shared community within the church then themselves when they're sending their letters and when they're receiving letters back. And that's been really successful.
And you've got these children sponsored, and you know, have you seen how it's changed lives?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We have got numerous stories about how it's changed lives. In fact, actually, the current leader of our projects in Uganda was himself a sponsored child. And when you read his story, or when you meet him and you see the impact of sponsorship, just even on his life, you absolutely can see the value of sponsorship. But another story that comes to mind is of a child in Bangladesh called Monica. And when she was 14, her father and family decided that she should be married. And it was only the fact that she was a sponsor and had taken part in some World Vision programmes that she understood that was actually not the right path for any child. And so she contacted the World Vision team in her community, and they were able to go back and speak to the family and talk about different alternatives, and came out with an excellent outcome for her. But the most amazing thing about this particular child, Monica, is that she understood the value of what had happened to her, and so she has made it her mission at just 14 years old to ensure that other children in her community are not married. And what we've learnt so far is that there have been 10 child marriages that she has prevented. Obviously not her on her own, but she has been the force behind ensuring that those children have had representation, that they have known where to go to access support, and I'm sure that there will be many more. We know that sponsorship not only benefits the child who's sponsored, but everyone else in their community because of the impact of that. We know that in the communities, the education is transformed because teachers get really great guidance and tools to help them. We ensure that there's water at the schools, which means that the children can go to school in the first place because they're not having to trek for miles to get water. They can have their education, get the water on the way home and go back with the water, and it's good, clean, safe water for them. But we also know that within the communities themselves, there's a lot of education about children's rights, about the rights of women, about how life can be. And that is what we're really, really, really hopeful for, that if we can just increase the number of children who are sponsored, then that just has this multiplying effect across all of the communities that we work in.
You mentioned child marriage and the fact that you had educated the girls that they realised that it was wrong. What exactly are the dangers of child marriage? And I just wonder if it causes problems with the local community, that you're stopping something that had been a tradition for many, many years. Do you find resistance from the elders of the villages that you're trying to change the way that they've been doing things for years?
Yes and no. It's not really so much that we're trying to change things. We're just trying to show them a different way and explaining to them why that's so important. Because what we are saying is that if a child is married, it's very likely that that child will become pregnant whilst they themselves are children. And then the outcomes of that pregnancy and resulting birth are often not very favourable because children are not meant to be giving birth. And the elders do know that. And so I think that they too are often looking for different and better ways for their communities. Often their parents themselves, or they have loved children in the communities themselves. So that there is an appetite for a better way. But the risk of child marriage at this moment in time is actually higher than it's been, not in our sponsored communities, but in the areas that we're not currently working in, which is why we really want to start working in those areas. Over the next decade, we must estimate that up to 10 million more girls are at risk of becoming a child bride just because of the pandemic. We know that school closures increase marriage risk by 25% per year, and we have seen that schools have not yet reopened because of the pandemic, or because sometimes of climate change as well, where, for example, rivers have flooded so that the access to school has not been possible. We know that today over 650 million women today were married as children. And that is a statistic that we absolutely do not want to see happen. And we want to make sure that we are giving these children the alternatives. So alternatives give them education, educate them about their rights, educate them about how they can do things differently, and educate them that they can stand together with other girls in the community to ensure that that's not... These children are not saying they don't want to be married. They're just saying that they don't want to be married before they've had a chance for education. And I just think it's really important that they get those opportunities that we do take for granted here often. And we really encourage them to continue with their education and then to provide that information on for generations to come. One of the other areas that we're really keen to develop more with churches is we recently took part in a research project with Barnett Research and also Alpha, where we were researching into youth attitudes to Jesus. And we have got a lot of really, really valuable information from this. We have not only a worldwide study, but also one that focused specifically on Ireland. And we would be delighted to share that with churches free of charge. If people wanted to contact us at partnerships@worldvision.ie and just email and just say you've heard me on the radio and that you'd really like us to send you that, we'd be delighted to send you that research totally free of charge, and some other information as well that might be helpful on that.
Yeah. Well, Gillian, thank you for explaining and talking about this project, and let's hope you get 100 girls before the 8th of March, International Women's Day. It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yes.
But good luck with that. And how can people get in touch to be one of the 100 sponsors of these girls?
Oh, we would love you to give us a call. So you can call us on 01 498 0800, and that's 01 498 0800, or you can visit our website at wellvision.ie, or you can email us at partnerships@wellvision.ie, and we would absolutely love to speak with you, to talk with you through all of the different elements that you might want to consider before you become a sponsor. We would love to share with you some of the details of the girls who are waiting to be sponsored.
Very good. Gillian Barnett, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen.
This podcast is produced by the Beyond Belief team. Join us on Sunday at 9 p.m. for Beyond Belief.